Welcome, everyone. In surprise, we didn't promote this event, but it's been on our calendar for quite some time. And we've just been watching the energies, watching the astrology, and we are not live in person in Rochester Hills, but we are filming this from our studio. So we will have more online participation than here in the room, which is kind of fun because all of you out there get a chance to ask your questions of the guides, and we'll be here for a couple of hours. So we're planning to be here for the normal amount of time. We've got Barb and Ethan coming up next, so they'll start around 3:15 Eastern, depending on how we go with this event. And if you're new, we're with the Flower of Life Institute. If you're not familiar with us, we are a volunteer organization focused on raising human consciousness. And we have multiple projects ongoing. We have our expo, which I know a lot of you are familiar with. And if you did purchase tickets for this year's expo, we just made a huge transfer for those of you who are waiting for the 2021 dates to the next event. So you should be getting notified about that very soon. We do have our kids movement, Conscious Youth, and we have our Conscious Parenting group as well, very near and dear to my heart. We just had a parent meeting a couple weeks ago, I think, and it's amazing. Sharing a lot of stories and fascinating ideas, and this is a perfect time for parents to gather on the planet, and things are moving along. A lot of really cool ideas coming forward about learning pods and homeschool options and unschool options. It's really amazing for me to hear all of that and sit back and listen to what's happening with all of you, because it gives me faith and hope that we're going in the new direction, and we are building so many new things on the planet, which we don't often hear about on the mainstream media or in the mainstream media. We also have coming up a mentorship program. So if you are in the kids movement or you're not familiar with it, we are moving very deliberately towards year-round school. But the first step forward to that is our mentorship program, where kids will be matched one-on-one with a mentor if they have some very unique gift or talent that they are wanting to practice. Channeling, for example. They might be paired with someone like me. If they're doing energy work, they're interested in crystals, they might be paired with someone like Barb, who's willing to take them on one-on-one, work with them a couple of times a month, and advance them forward in some area that they're really interested in. So watch for that. That'll be coming out very soon. My work also has some new things going on. If you're in my Inner Circle community, we have a new course that we're starting on Monday, Lightworker Inner Circle 17, which is titled Initiation, and it's through Mary Magdalene, which is kind of rare. I haven't typically worked one-on-one with a single guide for any one length of time in a course. This is really special, and I'm super excited about it. We're going to be working within our subtle energy fields. So if you were with me for Inner Circle 13, we were offered a breath practice where we were raising Kundalini, working with a Merkaba, and we learned about this whole inner technology and how to connect it and what its purpose is. And now it seems that we're moving into the outer technology, which I have seen in great detail within our aura. So within our the span of our aura, within our energy field, we have all of these little subtle energy centers that are meant to work together. And some of them over the years have not been functioning in the way that they should, nor have they been focused upon. So this is groundbreaking new information, and it has a lot to do with a regenerative light source that exists within that we can activate and utilize for health and longevity. Its purpose, though, really is to connect with our divine plan in such a way that our physical bodies are resilient so that we can serve. We're also going to learn about a plasma light body, or plasma sun body, which is brand new for me and not sure if it will be for you, but we'll be activating that and learning how those two work together to support manifestation. So this is a complex course. We're going to get a lot of definitions and interesting terms, but also very heavy in processes. And the first intro video is already available. I know a lot of people have been working with it. I've been getting some feedback. It starts with a very outer rim, and she calls it our etheric rim, where we meet all things, and repairing that as we go inward and connect all of these other fields. So if you're interested in that, check it out on my website on the Inner Circle courses tab. But also we have the manuscript. So I know many of you have been following along. I have been releasing 2 chapters a week as I am editing. And this is a brilliant time. So if any of you have questions about things you're exploring in the manuscript with your various groups and communities, I'd love to answer those questions, or the guides would love to come in and answer those questions. But there's communities around the globe. So if you're feeling alone right now and looking to dive into some material with others, it's completely free. Go to the community tab, put in your zip code and location, and you will find people in your area, or even remote groups that are meeting around the globe to explore this material. All right, and it's a quantum codex, so it will meet you exactly where you are and change along the way. All right, as well. So with that, feel free. If you're posting in the comments, if you have questions for me before we start to channel, I'm very pleased to take those. We can just flow with whatever comes up. If you are specifically asking a question of the guides, just make sure that you denote that as well, and we'll start accumulating those in the comments. But I always like to catch everyone up on where the guides have been going and what the themes are, what's been coming in session, because I find it just fits perfectly together like a puzzle. And going back a little bit, I want to bring in some of the concepts that we've learned about in the Inner Circle courses, specifically about vibrational alignment and how that is such an important tool for us on the planet today. And we know right now it is so easy for us to lose our balance, you know, that inner calibration to source, where all of the things that are going on in the outer world don't affect our energy, don't diminish our creative ability. Yet it isn't only important that we conserve that energy so that we can serve. But what I have come to realize in my editing over the last several weeks, and with some of the things I've been tuning into in the collective, is that it is paramount for how we resolve karma. So I edited a chapter this past week that just went out on Friday. And just so y'all know, I'm diving into these chapters multiple times. So I'm reading them 15, 20 times, interacting with these, words and concepts. And really got immersed in this karmic, it was entitled Mastering Your Karmic Destiny chapter. And so imagine this. Here we are as a singular soul in a physical vehicle on the earth, living our lives. And we have this incredible vault of knowledge, this support that exists in the Akashic field. The Akashic field is a capture of all things. It is everything that ever has been, will be, potential timelines, multiple planets and star systems, Earth. It's just incredible, this field. And it's intelligent. So it knows exactly how to prioritize things and categorize things. As a matter of fact, it was either in this chapter or the one before it, the guides alluded to the fact that it is somewhat of a finite field and had become so massive that the consciousness within it found a way to efficiently ensure that we could receive everything that we needed. And it's through imprints. So again, if you've been following my work, we talk about imprints a lot. An imprint, think of vibrationally as an emotion. So if we have something that happens to us and it doesn't feel so good, and we're sad, and we carry that sadness into the next moment and the next and the next, and we reflect back on what happened to us in the next, we carry this imprint of sadness. And that aspect of our timeline, it is captured by this massive field and organized with other similar imprints. So we can look back on our history, linear and beyond, and know there are a lot of sad things that have happened on the earth and in other dimensions. So why store them? What's the reason that we would want to hold and store information if it did not have some purpose? Well, what we're striving for in the Akashic field, in the universe, and here is neutrality. And neutrality is where we expand. It's where we are able to siphon meaning from past experiences and use it as a tool for not only our awakening and interacting with others, but how we create in physical. So just because we have experiences that are sad in our history doesn't mean they aren't valuable for us or to be used elsewhere. So there's this other interesting thing that's been happening on the planet that I want to weave in to this concept of mastering your karmic density. And some may be referring to it as cancel culture or censorship. There's a movement to obliterate things from the planet. If they don't match a certain ideal, or there's something that we deem harmful, we want to cancel it from media, from the ability to interact with it, social media platforms, personalities, whatever it may be. Now, whether you are in agreement with that or whether you are not, something to consider is that nothing is ever canceled in the Akashic records. There's no censoring that goes on there. Timelines build upon timelines, build upon timelines, and they converge into these imprints and these data centers, which are valuable for us. But if we do not meet it with a new vibration, it never changes. So karma, what the guides were alluding to, is something that happens in the present moment. You know, we think we came to the planet with a certain amount of karma to serve, and we all certainly did. And there's always a common question. How much karma do I have left to resolve? Or have I resolved all of my karma? Or how much more karma do I have to endure? And what the Pleiadians were explaining is we are always going to have karma, because karma is like a magnet that continues to draw us forward. But what we fail to differentiate between is that karma is not the same as suffering or density. So we might think karma is only sadness, or karma is only trauma or fear. But in fact, we are working through karma on a moment-to-moment daily experience with very little understanding of how much karma we've already transmuted. The density is the stuff we get stuck in. So here's where I want to weave vibrational alignment in. If we become out of balance in our focus, where there's something we feel must be canceled or shouldn't be on the planet, whether it's a belief system, whatever it may be, history, and we are expending a lot of energy to attempt to rid it from the planet, we're often in the same vibration or the imprint that created it or caused it. We're actually matching vibrations, and we don't even realize that's what we're doing. So what the universe begins to do, this intelligent universe in Akashic field, is channel the energy back, because we are here to experience all that is and use it as the platform for as much evolution and expansion that can take place. But if we don't change the imprint of it, it may come back in a different form, in a different face, with a different name, in a different platform, with the same vibration. And so what happens through time is we often operate in this very thick field of density. And again, density isn't always negative. It isn't always bad. What the guides were saying is our bodies are densities. They are dense forms of light that coincide in a very thick material. But we can imprint our bodies with an emotion of love or hate. And that may determine how our bodies interact in karmic interplay, where we draw something, an experience from the Akashic field that matches this imprint and vibration. But what's happened through time is we've become so imbalanced in our energy fields. As a matter of fact, we came into a timeline where our physical and non-physical energies immediately became imbalanced as we embodied. And this has a lot to do with past history. It isn't our fault. We stepped into a lineage where imbalance has been going on for centuries. But what we're here to do is bring it back into balance. And we can cut cords as much as we want. We can cancel history and wipe it out of the history books. We can take people off of platforms. But unless we are able to meet these things with a different vibration than they exist within or that we've met them in before, they become a part of our karmic destiny. They come back around. This is how the Akashic field serves us. So what we're really striving for in our ability to evolve is to be in a present moment awareness with our vibration and how we are in balance with where we place our attention. That means we can certainly know about all the things that are going wrong on the planet. We can be immersed in the polarity because that's actually an opportunity for us to strengthen our beliefs and to become more excited about what we need and want to create in the world. But we don't have to fight up against all of these things to the degree that we never have any energy going in the opposite direction. And this is where the guides are pointing out that we may have gotten a little out of balance, is that we're looking at all of the problems and we're either trying to wipe those out or fight up against them or point fingers at them. And we're completely out of balance with bringing in and landing a new vibration, with the imprints that we really want to attract from the Akashic field, the stuff that we don't have to repeat anymore, the really positive stuff. And, going back to previous chapters before that, and even some of my channeled transmissions, the guides have talked a lot about cosmic history, and we become so enlightened and so awakened that we're literally drawing from the Akashic field universal history. And this is why some of us have become so intimately aware that we can channel, we can heal, we understand quantum energies, we're moving into a different viewpoint of the earth. And that's really coming from this more universal subset of history that we truly want to draw in, because that's where we get to create the new. That's where we get to create the new. So during all of this, as all of these messages are streaming in and I'm having these realizations about karma and density and imprints and free will, Mary Magdalene shows up because I'm working with her on this course. And as I was asleep, just receiving from her in dream state, I woke up with this very succinct yet profound definition and quickly ran to scribble it down on my legal pad. And it was the definition of discernment. And she said, discernment is filtering through a vibration of love. Sit with that for a minute and really feel how different that is from perhaps the way we've walked through the past year. And discernment has been all about revealing some great truth, some corruption. We're here as light workers, so we're so well-intentioned when we do this. But there's a subtle difference when we discern through a filter of love. It's where we're not only looking for the things that exist outside of that realm, but we're searching for the things that do. Because that's really where our freedom lies. The way that free will works within our karmic destiny is that it gives us the opportunity through a plan that we don't know, that we curated as a soul long before coming, to choose our vibration in any moment. And the book said this as well, that the only thing that stands between us and source energy, instantaneous manifestations, is our ability to choose vibrations in every moment. And that doesn't mean that we always love what we see on the planet. It doesn't mean that it's always resonating with our truth. But if we are willing to step into Mary Magdalene's definition of discernment, what we may find is that we are leading ourselves into the solutions as opposed to just pointing out the problems. And then I channeled this past week for my Inner Circle monthly membership. And the Phoenicians came in, to my surprise. And they were talking about these subtle intricacies in words and language, and how perhaps another tool of discernment exists within our emotional bodies and within the empathy we may feel when we are speaking or when we are being spoken to. And so many of us know that within words are embedded vibrations. Even when we're channeling and bringing in these incredible downloads, there is a stream of consciousness far greater than what we're able to define in the word itself. But they were giving these really interesting examples. The word judgment. When you say the word judgment, feel within your throat, within your heart, within the vibration and the reverberation of your vocal cords, how that word even feels to you. And then say the word preference. What I began to notice and what they were showing me is that sometimes when we speak a word or a combination of words, we may find that we're either pulling breath in more than out, or vice versa. And what we're meant to do in communication and in exchange is always offer and receive in equal amounts. And you can feel this in the tones of certain words and how we approach them. We may even begin to listen to others and attempt to discern in that way based on how words and sentences are put together and how those harmonics and tones feel to us. What I want to leave you with is this. What's happening right now on the planet, whether you're on one side or another or in the middle, is not unlike that Akashic field. There is an intelligent process that is unfolding, and it's massive. It's just massive. There's so many little intricacies and nuances, whether it be what's going on in our bodies or what's going on in the financial system or in education or in government. But if we're always aligning vibrations and we're paying very close attention to how we interact with these things, we become the agents of change in action, where we don't have to worry so much about how much karma we've manifested or how much more we have to work out. We're literally stepping through karmic experience and bringing it into our liking, where karma can actually move us forward quicker. We don't have to get stuck in the same lessons and the same stories and the same history over and over again. We can open the door to new ideas and be supported in those new ideas. There's this kind of inner threshold that the guides have been showing me in session. And some of us lately have been feeling very exhausted. We've been kind of past the threshold where our energy can hold the amount of information that we really want to ascertain, where we're so attempting to find the truth and the right path that we may have exhausted ourselves. And that's okay if you're feeling that way. It is somewhat like the Akashic Records, where this finite space became full. And for a while, it took some time for this reorganization of data and timelines to overlay timelines and imprints to categorize them so that we could efficiently step forward again with everything that we have been and everything we will continue to be at our fingertips. And there's this feeling of being in a void right now that's been coming up quite a bit in my groups and in my sessions. And void spaces are not always negative. When we reach these plateaus or these marked transitional places where we may find ourselves resting, we can guarantee that we're moving in the right direction. Because if we had not received, walked through, experienced everything that we needed, we would not find ourselves in a place where we are integrating more. And so those integration periods may come and go quite a bit over 2021, where we feel this kind of active inspiration to move forward. And then we linger back and we rest and we feel stalled or sometimes exhausted. But these are perfect times to also reflect back on how we've been running energy, where we've been focused on it, where perhaps it's been siphoned away from our ability to create the new, because there is ample ground right now, fertile soil to seed, to plant the seeds of all of these new things. And that's going to require a lot of rain, a lot of effort, a lot of sowing. And it's okay if we don't have the energy to do that right now. But the more that we can allow ourselves in this intelligent process that we're in to prepare for the next leg, we may find ourselves springing forward with those seeds and with that hoe in hand and doing whatever we're meant to do in whatever area we came to focus in. And I want to leave this other message with you as well. In this cancel culture, censorship, whatever you may call it, the more we narrow the field, the less we receive. It is a two-way flow of information. So what we're striving for, even in all of the polarity, is as much diversity as possible. Because the more that we have diversity, the more magnets are drawing more options, the more expansive and multidimensional lives we're going to lead. The caveat to this, which I know is bothersome for many, is that boundary or fine line where traumas and harm has been done. And there's a lineage of this as well. What the guides alluded to very lovingly and gently in this chapter, which I hope I'm going to do justice to as I speak about it now, is our form of justice on the planet has negated a non-physical energy that continues on. The imprint that first started the crime, the trauma, whatever it may be, is often what we're using to punish those that continue it. And although we need boundaries and we need safety, and we certainly need rules on a physical planet, unless we can consider the vibrational components of what is repeating, those physical timelines that we think we're siphoning and cutting off through judgment, captured by the Akashic field as well. They come back and are seated within our DNA, and they are based, all of them, in lack of love. So for Mary to come in and say, discernment is to filter through a vibration of love helps us to also consider that how we interact with these deepest, darkest traumas and wounds through time is to see them as a part of the human condition that we are all connected to. And it matters not if we are physically involved in these traumas. Sometimes what the chapter said was we repeat them in more socially acceptable ways. But the imprint nonetheless is the same. Whether we are using our words or we're using our bodies, it is a trauma. So these traumas are the things that, unfortunately, in a very restrictive energy, where we're working with the same set of history, interacting with it karmically and a lot of density, have come back around. As we open our eyes to the potential of what we have right now, we can see that our service is how in each moment we choose to view the world and how we interact with everything that we view. Do you have any questions, Ethan?
Thank you, Micheila. I've been channeling since March, and I still struggle to believe who I am channeling. Any advice for channels?
My best advice is ask, because if you are channeling and you ask who you are channeling, these loving beings and guides, especially the ones who are in your highest interest, will tell you who they are. But this is where that discernment also can come in, because what I've noticed, especially when I first started to channel, and this is exactly what I did, was I stopped and asked. As a matter of fact, I laid down a boundary. I became so frustrated with the amount of communication I was getting and not knowing who it was coming to or from or through, that I said, no one gets to speak to me unless I hear a name first. And ever since that day, before any guide or being speaks to me, I get a name. But I did notice that there's a difference in the information. Okay, so everyone has to discern who they are connecting to through their vibration and their unique extrasensory. And channeling is such an art because it's so unique to who you are and these different subtle intricacies of your extrasensory that it's a very difficult thing, I think, to even teach. But for me, I kind of got the feeling in my body, and especially based on the information and the way the communication was taking place, as to what kind of dimensional realm we were operating in. Because lower vibrational beings aren't always offering information that is perhaps the highest and best or relevant. And there's a kind of an interesting little gauge that I use personally for myself and when I'm interacting with channeled material. What I began to notice is guides and beings that are in the highest intention for all will not lay down directives. Just like the example I just spoke of with the Akashic field, where we want as diverse and open a field as possible to receive as many options. They want that for us as well. So a guide isn't typically going to step in and say, you must do this by next Thursday in order to have something else happen. They respect and honor your free will so much that they want you to choose. So the messages tend to become extremely expansive as well. And that's how you can tell where you're moving through these various dimensions to work with so many different beings of light. But to simplify the answer, ask and trust, because higher vibrational guides will always tell you who they are.
I tried channeling and ego took over and pulled out the darker side of me. Can you give advice on how others can channel and know when you're getting ego or spirit? Thanks a million for all you do.
Yes. Such an interesting question, because I do think to some degree every channel is using the ego, but it's how you're using the ego that matters. Because the ego is where we are able to hold ourselves in a position of non-judgment. We think we have to get rid of the ego, but our ego self in many respects, and the guides would say this in session right now, is supporting and assisting what we draw. So if we can love ourselves to the degree that these guides love us, that becomes the matching process. So often it isn't so much the presence of the ego, but how the ego sees itself, diminishes its worth or questions itself, that really causes those disturbances. Everyone is different. Again, I think channeling is such a unique art. I have my own personal process for getting my ego self out of the way. And for me, it is somewhat of a bilocating process. So I don't know how and why I know how to do this. I think I've done it in so many lifetimes that it just is innate within me, where I choose a location in this space when I'm channeling for where my ego will sit as an observer. And while I'm channeling, if I feel my ego self slipping back in, I focus more on that location. So for me, it's even better to have something that's very visceral, like a soft chair. In my home, I have a very soft rug. So often when I'm doing sessions, if I feel I'm becoming too present in the session, I put my hand through that rug. I see myself sitting on it and I'm stroking it and feeling it. And as the concepts and words are streaming through my mouth from the guides and beings, my attention is actually in a complete and total different room of the house. Not everyone's able to do this, but this is something I think you could practice, where you focus on an area within the room that you're in, while at the same time opening up yourself to channel, and use that as the tool to keep moving yourself away. But always, always self-love, worth, and appreciation, so that the ego isn't really a problem. It isn't inflated to such a degree where it's calling in beings who would be the same. But to see yourself in the light of these masters is truly what matches that vibration. So let's go ahead and get started, and we will bring in a general message. If you haven't been with me, I'm a trance channel. We'll bring in whoever is best suited for whatever we need to know for this time on the planet today. And afterwards, we'll take questions. So go ahead and load those up in the chat, and Ethan will ask the questions. We'll work with multiple guides, teachers, and masters, whoever needs to come in that's best suited to answer your questions. And we'll just flow with this. If you get lost in the words, sit in the energy, you'll get everything that you need vibrationally. And we're going to work with the Pleiadians today. I welcome them. We are the 9th dimensional Pleiadian Collective. As always, we are pleased and honored to step forward and work with humanity towards the goal of continued evolution and transcendence of your timeline. We have been present on the earth in different forms, human as well as hybrid, and we observe the way that history evolves and how your own blueprints and bodies have evolved. And we have deep and great appreciation for who you stand to be in this moment. It is important that we state this because we see so many have lost this internal respect and reverence for human life at a time when we know it seems quite difficult to be within a human body. But we must first assure you that as a soul, you have great service to offer. It is not perhaps what you do, but the fact that you embodied at this time to be immersed within this energy, that is of greatest value. And although at times you may quantify how you are serving and what you support on the planet through cause and effect, there is an unseen cause and effect that we see as most important and especially potent, that goes on at the level of your heart through the essence of your being. And this is what has been most lost in the trauma of current experience, we want to bring forth an explanation of how we see you working through the energies at hand. And we know there are a complex matrix of reasons and ideas for how the earth is meant to change, how you as souls are meant to bring the earth into change. But from our vantage point, this could never be the same. The unity consciousness that you desire must come from a million individual souls operating within their perfect truth. For if this were not to occur, the earth itself could not evolve. If you were to travel throughout the galactic universe and visit multiple star systems and races, you may notice that some have evolved into a form of light, one that is very consistent, and they carry very similar visions, characteristics. And in other star systems, there is a choosing of physical. Components of physical and non-physical hybridize, and there is some delineation between beings within the same race. But as you would come back to Earth, you would be amazed at the sight of difference between each soul. As a matter of fact, we see the Earth as an incredible and wonderful opportunity to experience singularity, such that unity consciousness flourishes. Because that is the reason that you arrive in any planet, in any star system, in whatever form is dominant there. We, in our star system, have made agreements to exist in multiple dimensions. And this is how we experience our multidimensionality, meaning there is a choice for some to evolve into physical for a time, but to also evolve into light. And as a council or collective, lose any distinguishing characteristic from another. In these circumstances, what's truly going on is there is such a connection and flow state between beings that there is no reason to delineate between ideas. If this was the case on the earth, you would be here for an entirely different experience, one in which physical truly wasn't necessary. But one of the most detrimental things that we have seen in your history are times when humanity has been stifled in their freedom. Because the degree of uniqueness that you have evolved to be seen in is only a small reflection of the degree of sovereignty that you have been birthed within. Where what you perceive of the world and who you become as an identity have relevance to lending behind something that has never been seen before. Because if all are to create in the same way, there is a stagnancy that becomes very present. You are light embodied in a physical form, and what you come to offer is a rearrangement of that light in something that is as incredible and wonderful as what we see when we look down upon the earth. You are fragments of souls in physical bodies with incredible and tremendous access to parts of yourselves from beyond. But these parts of self only arrive to meet your internal needs and desires if you are allowed to express fully your uniqueness. At the hands of many, there is an opportunity to lay the foundation for an earth that becomes something completely new than it was before. But if those hands are all meant to work in the same fashion, for the same purpose, with the same materials and the same instruction, you may find yourself going back in time, delineating a physical earth that is more material and dense. What you are attempting to do is to bring a new imprint to material, where in the past it has been focused upon as the only path of evolution, but not unlike our star system, where choices are now made in multidimensional lights, you have the ability to manifest it differently to your desire. In the fifth dimension, you are opening the door to these potentials, where great changes may take place in very small amounts of linear time. But this is reliant upon a bandwidth of consciousness that does not delineate difference in a way that is wrong. We're speaking only here of the polarities of difference in belief, how you must move through your life and what you are allowed to create. In Pleiades, we have crossed a threshold where there is little concern about bodily or emotional harm. This is because we can no longer see each other in the light of separate in such a way that there is a threat to ourselves. In other words, as you are looking out at the planet today and perceiving humans around you, the amount of threat you perceive to your own embodiment becomes the amount of threat that becomes perpetuated on the earth. And we know in your hologram, in your reality, there is much to fear. And these things that you fear are just as real as anything else that you may focus upon. But if that focus does not become balanced in what you desire versus what you fear, you may find yourself only living in more of the trauma that fear creates. So we encourage you to spend moments of time where you are not only looking out and taking evaluation of what you should fear or what is wrong in the world, but counteracting it through some action or perception or creative offering, even in the smallest way. These things that you do that others are not recognizing you for, that may go undetected by the masses, are the most potent and powerful acts that evolve the earth. These are the ones that will support your personal experience, but draw from a vault of potential timelines, the most free, sovereign, and abundant experiences for all. We want to give a suggestion and offer it in terms of our own experience. What we have come to know is the emotional body is a very potent manifester. It is a harmonic tool. It is a sound frequency. It is not unlike immersing yourself in the sonic of hundreds of crystalline bowls and gongs. If those are not properly tuned to the right frequencies, they may cause harm within the physical body, psyche, or emotion. But when they are succinctly tuned and channeled through another, they are the most incredible healing implement. You are an incredible healing implement. You have within you an emotional body that is both a communication technology inwardly as well as alignment technology outwardly. And we are not here to say that emotions should not be felt nor followed. In fact, we have learned how to use them in the quantum realm by expressing them consciously in the moment. And as we do, more space is available. For you, emotions have become quite automatically suppressed or, at times, unconstructively shared. This is because of the polarity of restriction and allowance that has been going on in the galactic universe and how it's influencing the Earth. These influences, these planetary alignments that you are going through are somewhat diffusing the inner pressure that is stored within your child, that is stored from past. And if it is not done constructively, it may fall outside of the bounds of where it may heal and create more of what you do not desire. The most important measurement for an evolving soul is to note how the mind is reacting to emotion and how emotion may linger beyond its present moment. This is where past or future is being manipulated in a very potent way. As a human soul, the quantum realm that you wish to enter, the multidimensional earth that you wish to land, only exists within the now. And in that now moment, you may find you are organically tuned to all that is necessary and all you may need to support the earth. We're very pleased to take questions.
I've heard that 1221 marked the beginning of a new 200 years plus cycle. Could you elaborate?
We are the Pleiadians, and we do agree that there are certain periods of time where you are turning the page on an evolutionary process. And this is how we see this date. It has less to do with the date itself and more to do with a historic event that you have been walking through for quite some time. We have alluded to multiple solar frequencies and energies that have come to the planet at a very specific time. You have been walking through these solar energies for the last several linear years. And what they have done within you is efficiently stored information from past travels that is relevant to the next phase of your journey. And this is something often that the conscious mind cannot conceptualize or inventory because it is very abstract and vibrational. But you are a siphon for intergalactic knowledge. And solar frequencies are the potent energies that plasmically orient you to other cosmic lives. And their intensity has raised the potential for you to bring these lives in and alchemize them in a very efficient way. The reason that this date in particular is a turning point is that you're walking into a new phase of planetary alignments where a purging process is underway. When we bring in a certain amount, or we'll say vibrational criteria of data, anything that no longer matches that exists within the energy field or sometimes within the DNA must be brought to the surface and transmuted. And these times have come as extreme focus on the physical body, especially now as a collective, what's going on as a whole on the planet. This turning point is perhaps less of a focus on the singular soul and a connection to why you exist in singularity in response to a unified field. We see this turning point as not good or bad in the realm of judgment. We see it as the next step in human evolution to move you into the fifth dimension solidly and to anchor the physical material manifestations necessary to hold it.
I follow other channels who speak about an upcoming announcement regarding dark truths. Can you confirm or speak on this at all?
Yes, well, we are the Council of Light. And it is important for us to define this term, dark truth, as we see it within and upon the earth. We have mentioned in past transmissions that darkness will always be an aspect of your reality. As we see darkness, it is solely the polarity of preference that is meant for you to interact with, to either choose more of what you believe or to shift your beliefs. But through time, unfortunately, this darkness has become an aspect of violence. It has taken on the suppression of the inner psyche and lack of love that humanity feels and carries through generations. The truths also that we know many are focused on exist within the realm of government. And this is a macrocosmic container that all of you are creating together. So where you may believe that one truth exists, what you are actually doing is interacting with multiple truths and choosing them on behalf of the collective. When a truth is suppressed, perhaps by one individual or a group of many, it is never exactly what you are seeing. We are not saying that your hologram is wrong or that you are not in tune with reality. What we are expressing here is that truths that are suppressed are actually matched vibrations. What the human collective is ready to receive, its bandwidth of consciousness that is ascertained, is always what determines the amount of energy and information in this pool or container. So in other words, everything that comes to light is a collective manifestation. It is never really hidden or suppressed. This is only a part of how it shows up in your hologram based on what you are suppressing within yourselves. So in some respects, we believe that the fight for truth is actually contradictory to it becoming what you desire, which is not some egoic, we'll say, resolve on behalf of your soul, where what you have thought and believed so long finally becomes justified in the outer world. This is only a distortion. What you truly want as a human soul is to live freely within your truth, where it is not restricted in any realm by any one thing. But for you to do this, you must not believe you are restricted by truth. To put truth in the light of restriction is to actually restrict your own soul. We believe this is the theme that you are walking in the incoming year, where your desires to prove or disprove truth may be shown to you in further restriction until there is a freeing of the aspect of the soul that desires to confirm it so that it may be reclaimed as it has always been present within the self.
Do you recommend any forms of energetic shielding, especially during this intense time? I've heard from some people that it's necessary, and I've heard from other people that just being in our heart space 51% of the time is enough to maintain a high vibrational state.
We're going to work with Mary Magdalene as well as the Arcturians on this, so I welcome them as they both step in. And the Arcturians say it is important to consider that part of your transition is reliant upon the reconnection to the heart chakra of many. The unity consciousness that you desire is a coherent place where all souls are operating in the highest and best outcome of another. And this is not the way the earth has operated for quite some time. Yet, we do see much progress that has taken place within the frequency field of the higher heart, which is a reunion space of cosmic families. If you are to protect yourself in terms of disconnecting your energy from other humans, this is a deliberate request to stall that process. In other words, we often see prayers of protection and statements of affirmation to restrict energies as creating the opposite of what you truly desire. So many of you have become such adept, spiritually advanced healers and teachers. You are accessing multidimensional energies. This is a stronger field of support than stating protection. It is not to say that there are not energies on the planet that you should be wary of, nor are there forms of consciousness, such as reptilian, for example, that are siphoning your currency. But it is often that the way these activities take place go beyond the radar of your spiritual practice. In other words, spirituality is causing an overt focus upon what is wrong in the world. And in that perception, you are opening the door to what also is wrong. So there is always a vibrational matching process that is underway, where whatever activity you are involved within or speaking about most or considering most may become strengthened into your energy, a strengthened force of your energy field, or may restrict its resiliency and access to others. We have Mary Magdalene stepping in, though, and she says, it is a time on your planet of great potential to strengthen your energy field in the way of many in my lineage. We have been taught that the technology that lies within the energy field is an incredible one that, when understood, need not become a focus of worry. There are concentric circles and arcs that flow in waves within your energy field. These can be programmed with affirmations and statements that strengthen it in the way of protection. This is a resiliency that is a bit different than many of you are attempting to achieve. This form of resiliency clears the path such that what you have planned to do before you arrived in response to what is taking place in the outer world completely coincides, such that there may be no barriers to what you are here to serve, nor are there roadblocks to how you are meant to create on the earth. For now, my suggestion is this: that you imagine these arcs and concentric circles as forces of light, and that you feel into them daily with the breath, even with your hands, and expand them outward with statements of love. Love expressed to the self and love expressed outwardly to others. This, we believe, is the best form of strengthening of your energy field to support what is happening on the planet today, and may lead you into more compassionate and loving interactions, which is ultimately what you desire.
We understand that we're repeating a cycle that matches the era of Atlantis. What guidance can you give us so we don't repeat their mistakes?
Yes, we usher in the Atlanteans there, a council of elders, and I welcome them. It is important first to understand that mistakes are a falsehood. Although we know there are outcomes that are not desired, there are always new opportunities for what you desire to come back into fruition. And we exist in another dimensional reality. We, beyond the cataclysms of our time, have taken on new shapes and forms. We are guiding those on the earth and in other realms, and it is our distinct pleasure to do so. So although these cataclysms took place, now that we are beyond them, we see how they became an important part of where we were redirected in our work, and how the story of Atlantis itself was a pivotal aspect of history for you to consider today. But in the realm of mistake, in the way that humans define it, we will say that what we began to lose sight of was the strength of our collective connection. much of what our society was based upon was the evolution of consciousness. We knew and often measured the frequency of consciousness that would exist throughout our civilization. This was sustained elementally within our bodies and in connection to the earth. But there's a specific border, or we'll say threshold, where the integrity of spiritual practice becomes crossed, where the desire to attain material and knowledge is known through the eyes of practice in such a way that it is used by one, not for all. This was the beginning of the downfall of our civilization, where we became so advanced spiritually that we began to negate the physical and elemental plane and took it out of the realm of integrity, where it was a shared collective energy, and began to siphon it only for a select few. Integrity is the word that we most want to share. If every action that you are involved with is in integrity, you will move towards the evolution of the earth consciousness in a very effortless way. In fact, we see much of what is happening today as the resolve of our past timeline, somewhat in reverse. You may believe that you're walking into the cataclysm, but we believe the cataclysm has been present already for quite some time. Integrity in action and in word and in thought is how spiritual practice becomes collectively focused. And what that means is it cannot limit itself by or through the judgment or competition of another. The earth elements are in balance due to the fact that there is a purity of source within Gaia. This same purity of source exists within all of you. And the more that it is utilized in very small and deliberate ways, the more you will find yourself navigating this timeline perfectly and effortlessly, flowing like the water into the next. We also want to recommend that there are some concerns about the way that technology is evolving and how it may have parallels to things that happened within our own star system. And we agree that there are some technologically advanced aspects of your society that are opportunities to reacquaint yourself with past lifetimes in our star system and to understand how to resolve them differently this time around. You are beings of light, and what this means is that physical comes to accentuate that light. If technology is hampering your light, your only concern is to expand it even more. And so when we look at the realm of technology and all that is happening, the fear around it, even in some terms working within the body, this becomes an opportunity for you to strongly believe in the light that you hold and to utilize it freely as a tool of resolve beyond all physical doing. We had reached this threshold ourselves where we had a choice to look at physical as an opportunity to expand our spiritual knowledge and selves, or carry physical into our personal expression in a way of acclamation. This is how you find yourselves today reversing the timeline of Atlantis. The physical acclamation of everything around you has become a modality of fear that it will be lost or there will be no more to receive. Yet, in the sharing of it and in the amplification of your light, you will find it is a never-ending source that comes back to you quite easily as you walk into the fifth dimension.
What is the newness that has come now? I felt I've placed a brand new framework within my and others' physical being. Since then, just 1 or 2 days ago, none of the rules seem to apply now. Is anything possible now? Can I create in physical that which I know to be true?
Yes, this is Master Jesus, Yeshua. What we observe in what you are stating is that you have accentuated your quantum ability in a linear timeline. This newness that you feel is an ability, or perhaps lack of inability, to hold space for whatever is possible. I bring this in because it is a tool that I have worked with myself as I incarnated on the earth plane. And it is related to Christ consciousness, that which lies within Gaia, that was templated within her before my transition, and lies within the hands today of many others. When we are rebirthing ourselves anew, especially focused in physical, it can be a very confusing time. We may not know how to work with the expansiveness of what we feel, but there is a simplicity to being in the quantum realm, where there is perfect masculine and feminine balance, and there can be no judgment. It is just that you have not been used to operating in this way for so long that it may seem quite effortless. It may require no physical focus. Allow yourself to become intimately familiar with where you stand today. That which is new becomes new once again as we allow it to be exactly what it is for the purpose of why it has come. Many of you will walk these similar transitions whereby you have fleeting moments of pure perception, where what is happening on the planet can be viewed through multiple perceptions and definitions, and where the desire to choose one over another no longer exists. In this realm, what you desire becomes effortless because it also is not restricted only to the self. It does not show up in any one dimension or any one light. It becomes multidimensional and profound. And these are the feats of magic that can follow, those that I am known for on the earth plane, feeding those who are hungry and healing those who are sick. Because the space is held and the faith is known that there can be no other way.
Can you speak of the extreme chemical sensitivity some of us are experiencing?
Yes, we have the Arcturians. As a conscious soul, one that has walked the earth focused deliberately on raising speed of vibration, it is the natural evolution of a body to become more sensitive to its surroundings, because ultimately that is the goal. As you are raising consciousness, there is an extra sensitivity that is merging between all cells, all aspects of your energy field, to conduct more energy but also receive it. As an earthbound human, you find yourself today embodied within the presence of lower vibrational substances. Now, not all of these are as negative as they have been made out to be. In fact, many of them have been manifested by you because at a time they suited your physical bodies perfectly. There was a need, and the need was met in some very third dimensional or dense way. But as you evolve, the extra sensitivities are showing you that those things are no longer a match to who you're becoming. And what begins to happen is what remains in the body finds its way out. This may start very violently as a physical reaction, Those who are aware of extrasensory allergic type of reactions know what we are speaking of, where the mere interaction slightly with something that the body does not agree with sets off a chain of events where it must purge any instance of it from the inner realm. Many of you are beginning to do this by default, meaning your bodies are taking on a natural process of detoxification with little physical focus or effort. But because of that, you are noticing these sensitivities arising in very unknown and perhaps complicated ways, where the sensitivities are changing from one day to another, or they are becoming perhaps less able to define in some physical way. We look at this as a positive sign, but we know it does not feel, as a human, something comfortable to walk through. So we want to make a few suggestions for those who are feeling this extra sensitivity, whether it be emotionally or physically or otherwise. When you are matching vibrations, go slowly. Sometimes there is an inclination when the body is feeling sensitive, tired, or unwell, to shift it very quickly, to bring in something that is the immediate resolve. But this is not always the best course of action. If you are slowly feeling your way and matching vibrations slowly and consciously, you will allow your body to resonate with the best approach, as well as adjust very comfortably to what you are bringing in. We suggest elements and properties of Earth are best suited to those with extra sensitivities at this time. And we have spoken about this in past transmissions where we have brought up elements of silver and gold. For example, gold being a conductor of higher consciousness, and silver being more of a grounding agent. The grounding agents are just as important, and we will bring this to your awareness as well. As you go through periods of great evolution, there are times when your energy field surges beyond physical. And the notion that you must spiritually practice more may even throw the body more out of balance. So ensure that on a daily basis, if not weekly, you are balancing activities such that you may have the perfect amount of spiritual and breath practice combined with physical activity and being in the body. This will give the body a grounding place, a place where it can be in the realm of comfort and not go forward too fast while remembering the truth of who it is.
What is the best way to deprogram ourselves?
We are the Pleiadians. We understand what you are asking us, but at the same time, we believe that if you were to completely deprogram yourselves, it would be of beneficial information as well. So we will focus only upon that which we know is bothersome. There are tremendous patterns coming to light right now of past experience because you are unwinding them effortlessly. As a human soul, as you evolve, you become more aware of patterns as you expand consciousness. So the fact that you are asking us this question already confirms that the reason you wish to obliterate the pattern is because you have recognized it as something that is no longer serving you. And this is the first step. The more that the pattern is seen and recognized, the more of an occasion it has to be changed. But sometimes that requires stepping outside of where the pattern exists. And we'll give you an example of what we speak. The most difficult patterns we see that humanity is attempting to unwind now exist within the mind, where there is a constant replay of what has happened in the past that has created an identity in the present. And these are often lowering your perspective of self, limiting the amount of self-love that is available, and limiting your worth. In this realm, you are not only impacting yourself, but you are also impacting the whole of humanity, the entire human condition. As you awaken and these patterns in the mind become heard by you, there is an immediate inclination to suppress your worth again, to say that you are running a pattern and you have not learned your lesson and you should know better and spiritual practice is not working. But all of these things are only strengthening the pattern as they exist in the same vibration. So what you are attempting to do is to subtly shift your consciousness when you recognize a pattern through a different vibration, and that is often love. Even in the realm of difficult addictions and traumatic patterns, there is an anchor of fear. And when that fear comes up, if it is to be subtly addressed in a compassionate way, even if you cannot find love for the person who has harmed you, when you speak it to yourself, you are reorganizing the pattern in that moment. Meaning, those who commit the most heinous crimes have often gone through the crimes themselves. And they tell themselves they are not worthy or loved because the crime was inflicted upon them. And then when they commit the crime, they again reinforce that they are not worthy or good enough. So the crime must again show up. And then there is a lineage of crime throughout an entire generation or pattern of humanity existing within the DNA. But even after a trauma has been committed or experienced, if we can speak to ourselves in a loving and compassionate way, the consciousness within you begins to look elsewhere. It doesn't look at the pattern anymore. It begins to validate that which you speak. So if you are telling yourself that you are worthy, that you are loved, that you are the most unique and divine being of light, what your consciousness must do is create opportunities to validate that, to ensure that it's a part of your experience. And this is how the entire human collective may move forward from these very difficult patterns. So we don't suggest any deep immersive practice that must be difficult. We only suggest that when you see and feel what exists within the pattern, you strive to complement it with a different vibration, with a different emotion, even if it does not feel natural at first. And the more that you do, the more natural it will become, because your consciousness will support you in that response.
There's a female who claims to hold a high office on the planet and works with over 36 off-world positive entities, possibly the Galactic Council. Because of the current global martial law, she recently claimed her position of interim head of state until peace is achieved. This was released to the public in a press release 2 days ago, and her position was not self-appointed but seemingly part of her role with the GIA. She has called for the U.S. states, but also all countries to come together in the formation of state assemblies to reclaim the people's planet and to build and rebuild together, replacing the current governments. The focus is based on love and natural law, and as a base to start, can we get any thoughts around this? Understandably, this may be one timeline to consider, but thoughts would be appreciated on the truth of the claims.
We are the Council of Light. And what we wish to express is that you are all members of our council. You are not separate of us. When you arrived upon Earth, you signed a contract, a soul level contract, to arrive in agreement with and discussion with all of us who operate not only on your behalf, but on behalf of all other planets and races throughout the galactic universe. And so our first statement is this: what is happening within the council spans beyond just the Earth. And what we've noticed is you are reconnecting to the galactic grid. as this has happened, opportunities for representatives from higher councils, such as ours, have been able to ground on the earth and land with certain assignments and contracts as well. Some of these, although seemingly supportive of where you are headed, may seem limited in their ability to create change. And this is our advice. When you are looking only at one person who holds the responsibility for changing the entire planet, it is often a timeline that has been somewhat misunderstood or distorted through a singular soul. It does not mean that the effort itself is not coming from some channeled awareness of an assignment or ability that is coming to the earth at the perfect time. But it could never be through one conduit that the earth itself, or any faction of the earth being a geographic location or region, would find its sovereignty. And the reason for this is humanity is meant to go in the direction of its soul, such that there is a new matrix that is formed. You are the ones that are creating the entire structure. If one person were to organize this entire effort, it would begin to look as if that person's vision was becoming the reality. And that in itself would be quite limited. So although we hesitate to speak on behalf of the character of any one soul, nor their connection or assignment with us, we do acknowledge that coming to the earth plane in a human bodysuit, regardless of the degree of hybrid nature that you maintain, subjects you to a level of density where sometimes the understanding of what must be done is so massive that it is restricted and funneled into one idea. And we are in great support of all humans who are creating these opportunities for freedom and sovereignty, yet you are just as important in the realm of that creation as the human you speak of. There can be no delineation nor judgment of greater or less. If it is perhaps guided by your soul to follow what is being created, there may be a multitude of reasons for that, because the endeavor itself, if it is carried out in integrity, may be perhaps a great wave of change that is also influenced by many others. And if you follow up for a specific path and it does not perhaps pan out in the way that it first started, know that that in itself is also perfect, because you are receiving an opportunity through another to bring an internal guided understanding to light.
Splitting of two worlds, has the separation occurred, and is it too late to change our decision?
We are the Pleiadians. Let us make this very clear. The splitting of timelines is not a concrete contract, meaning that where you stand today or where you stand tomorrow cannot be changed in any direction. We see what's happening on the planet as very fluid and perhaps evolutionary, meaning there will be two separate Earth realities existing on the same planet, but free will choice always reigns. So those that choose one path or another will have multitudes of opportunities to change their decision and to choose another. It is not that you will be restricted in any one sense, nor will there be a finite time in which that decision is made. The split of timelines has been underway for quite some time. We go back in your history at least 10 years and see the very beginnings of this split taking shape and form. It was far more subtle then than it appears today, where the polarity of difference of choice is becoming quite impressive and quite different in its vibration. And remember, as we state this, that does not make the choice itself right or wrong, because if a soul is to blame or distract another from their ability to choose, they are not serving the collective. The freedom to choose a path is what allows the path itself to expand to more freedom. So inevitably, what will begin to happen is the earth itself will continue to restrict energies until timelines become completely opposite, meaning what is perhaps required or necessary to live in one time looks completely opposite from what is required or necessary to live in another. Even the feeling of living in these different environments will be quite noticeable to many. But ultimately, what we believe as you walk into the next 10 linear years is there will be an effort by many to merge the timelines. In fact, we don't see that a planet or a star system is meant to be existent in two different dimensions for any long period of time. Because if this begins to happen, there is less of a pool of information and energy available to all. So inevitably, these timelines will merge. It is not our position to say which direction they will go, but nonetheless, we do see that your plan, those of you who arrived here, and we are speaking of all of you in mass, is to arrive in the fifth dimension. And that dimension is a gateway to multidimensional experience. It is the cusp of stepping into something that you have never known before. So much of it is already available to you, and it will begin to show itself more as you walk into that timeline. We do want to make a point here, though, that exists beyond your question. Those of you who are walking into the fifth dimension are perhaps the ones who may struggle the most. Not because you have done something wrong or there is some karma that you must express, but because where you are going has never been seen. There is no concrete structure, safety net, or roadmap for what you are creating. And so it is easier at this juncture, we see, to perhaps stay in a third to fourth dimensional reality than it is to walk the path of the fifth dimension. But if you are reliant upon your inner knowing and trust within the unknown and the magic of what is to come, you will see it unfold far quicker than creating in the third dimension ever could have been. It is, as we have stated multiple times in this transmission, a more effortless form of manifestation and an open source pool of energy where all humans will benefit simultaneously. But we believe that it may be stalled somewhat based on the consciousness of the planet. And there is a pull of energy coming from those whose consciousness has not raised to the point where they are able to see it either. Those of you who are moving that direction are charged with holding the vision of it within your minds and hearts. This is just like holding space in the previous answer, where you enter the quantum realm of all possibility.
I'm visiting a country where animals seem to have no animal rights or protection from mistreatment by owners. Do pets and animals choose this life, and why? Any insights as to how to deal with this as a bystander would be very appreciated.
We are the Ascended Master Collective, and we speak through Archangel Gabriel. All souls who come to the earth come with a purpose. They choose a geographic region and timeline experiences because they are ascended masters who have viewed them from afar. They are angels in form who come to shift patterns of the human condition. And animals in this respect are often far more conscious and potent in their energetic understanding of what is taking place than humans. That being said, we know that there is trauma that animal collectives also experience. And in the geographic region that you speak of, know this. This is a consciousness raising potential. Anytime that trauma of this magnitude is not addressed for a certain period of time, what begins to happen is the humans inflicting the trauma will go through personal karmic experience of it. And although there is no relationship, perhaps seemingly from the earth plane, between the resolve of karma for the animals lost and those humans going through it, there is a process in the universe that is carefully taking shape and place. And many of those who cross beyond the earth plane, who are inflicted by trauma, sit on councils to ensure that these endeavors never take place again. You would not be immersed in this experience either if your soul did not have some meaningful connection to it. And perhaps that is to tell the story of what you see in a way that others may understand who do not realize. Or as a healer, one who may be here as a transitional guide, you are meant to receive messages of those that are present on the earth now, to understand ways that we can better serve them, even not being in the geographic region of question. There are so many reasons that these energies collide, where those who are traumatized and those who commit trauma come into collision with souls meant to heal. Because if this were not to take place, the evolution we have spoken of throughout this transmission would also not take place. Animal collectives at this juncture are going through a similar experience as humans, meaning they have raised consciousness right along with the earth. They have been affected by the solar frequencies, and much of what lies within their history is coming to deliberate pass. Know this, as you walk into the future years, new animal collectives and lineages will show themselves, hybrids and animal collectives that come back in a loving way to work with humanity and telecommunicate their needs. This is an opportunity to begin telecommunicating with them now to understand what they need and how we may present it.
I think you may have already answered this question, but if there's any clarification you may want to add, when will the timelines emerge?
We are the Pleiadians, and as we look today, we experience time differently, of course, than you do. We see it in vibration and potential, not in linear. But to answer your question, we note the next the 5 years forward from 2021 will be some of the most intense transition and evolution that your planet has experienced to date. And this does not mean that the timeline split will fully be resolved by the time that is over, but we do note that you will find more humans transitioning during this period than ever before, meaning that awakening will cause inner questioning and changes within their physical lives. We also want to mention there is an intelligent process that the universe steps in to facilitate, and it is not ours to measure. When souls become so resistant to moving forward, what begins to happen is the options they are holding on to stay stagnant begin to dissolve. It is somewhat like an internal magnet flipping and polarizing its opposite, where what we've attracted before that has become our safety net and we have held on to for so long no longer matches our vibration because we are meant to now move forward. We mention this because this process cannot be timed individually, but it will happen on a mass scale to many, where the bandwidth of consciousness that has been attained will no longer match the structure that has been built around it. This structure can be positions of work. This structure could be physical body and family. It can be geographic region. All of these things will be reconsidered, and humans will be in need of reinventing themselves at varying levels and speeds. Because of this, we think this will be a slow merging, not something that will happen immediately nor overnight. And this is why it is difficult for us to quantify it in linear time, because we honor your free will, and you must honor the free will of all others. Some may ask, if some are not willing to move between timelines, will they get left behind, or will they affect the entire Earth consciousness? Both are true to some degree. It is not that any human soul will get left behind, but what may happen is the density that they accumulate and karmic energy that they are intertwined within will become so great that it will become harder and harder to participate in the human collective new society. But also, the influence of the collective is constantly shifting tides. So if there are some that are not willing to go, it certainly will have a bearing on what you manifest collectively. But where the human collective is going in the realm of consciousness will greatly outweigh those who are not willing to shift. Again, we reiterate that we are not in judgment, nor are we suggesting there is any right or wrong path. But we certainly see that restriction plays a role in how humanity is meant to move forward. And the timelines that are the third dimensional ones may become more and more restrictive until humans are perhaps either coerced or choose to move to the new one.
Ego, fear, reactions, and choosing paths, or the resistance to awaken. Can you shed light on this?
Yes. We are the Pleiadians, and we have spoken much about the ego in past transmissions, but know this. The ego that exists within humanity today is certainly not a close match to the pure ego of ascended masters and intergalactic beings who have worked through lineages of karma and have become ambassadors of love. The ego self is a destructive force when it is turned against itself and others. And we state this because it is one of the most problematic areas that we see on the planet today in terms of this process. The ego self being turned outwardly against others is constantly pointing judgment, is only seeing what is wrong in its righteousness. And the ego self turned inwardly against the self cannot see what is pure and organic within. Both are problematic because there is no difference. What you judge in yourself and what you judge in the outer world creates a frequency field. And that is one of the most significant concerns that we see on the planet today, is that through the past year, a frequency field has been created that itself is operating in an egoic energy. It is as if a collective ego has somewhat strengthened. But it is not difficult to break this apart. The simple realization that all humans must consider is that there is no separation between them and others. It is these most difficult aspects of connection between the self and one that harms that we know are hard to acknowledge. To see yourself in another that inflicts harm is to actually see the human condition that you came to embody within. it is often made so personal. And yes, we understand on the earth plane, judgments and justice have been an important part of your reality. But the justice that you truly desire is not forgetting that everything that started before you is purposeful in who you become in the future. And so we must see it for what it is. And without moving it beyond the reflection of separateness, incorporate it and take responsibility for it in everything that we mimic. There are minuscule traumas that go on a daily basis within families, within neighborhoods, within shopping malls, and within grocery stores. These may never be seen on the radar of justice, but are no different than the greater crimes against humanity. So what the ego truly craves is to see the worth and value in everyone, and to see that the lack of love that perpetuates these things must be found. This puts the ego in a strengthened position where it is always offering the love that is necessary, or perhaps unable to be found in the outer world and within the self to the degree that it has been missing. These do not take grand expressions of energy nor physical to create. It is all what you perceive inwardly and outwardly as stated.
Will carnivorous animals ever change and become plant eaters in higher timelines?
We are we have a new council coming in. We have a council of animal elders, so I welcome them. They are hybrids, and they say what you've experienced on the planet in terms of animal collectives have come from multiple star systems, as well as earthly lineages that are blending together as one. So what this means is many of us who came first, to seed animals, were in a form of light, mimicking that light. And as animals evolved, they took on the physical density of the earth plane, causing them to take multiple timelines and expressions, whether they be those that resonate with plants or those that resonate with flesh. But that does not mean that evolution will not continue to happen. We believe that in some circumstances, the carnivorous beings on the planet are not meant to yet let go that activity, but are here to show humanity an option, for example, that may be available to them in different expressions of dimension and density themselves. All things are a likeness of another, and there is a mirror reflection between all beings, whether it be plant, animal, human, or otherwise. So in a sense, what you are seeing in the animal collectives is what is taking place within all of you. Multiple choices are being made, and those choices are influencing other choices, and those will be the deciding factor on how these options are either still available through time or no longer exist. So it is difficult for us to say, but as we speak today, we don't see any necessary emergent need or evolutionary process in which this is meant to happen quickly. Through time, there are many souls who cross on, who leave the earth, who work with those in the angelic realm to make new assignments and come back again. And they may consider that they're a new genetic strain or form of that animal collective for a certain purpose. And that purpose may be what you state in your question, but it remains to be seen, because humans are influencing this decision just as much as those who have crossed on.
Do you see the new U.S. administration as being a more positive or negative effect on the whole, and with regard to the possibility of mandatory vaccines?
We're the Pleiadians. We always see those in government positions as perfectly positioned to suit the impending consciousness and changes of humanity. That does not mean it is always to the likeness of the collective. It is important for us to also note that everything that happens in the realm of government is also a co-creative endeavor. When new laws are signed into acts, this has started long ago within your energy field, and you are witnessing a soul who volunteered to play this out on behalf of the needs of all. Sometimes these needs are not exactly what we desire, and there is quite a difference between what a human collective may need to evolve and what they desire. This is lending itself very nicely to the discussion of karma, where karma is an action and an interaction that constantly moves a collective forward. So to bring vaccines into the question, there are some on the planet who feel strongly that this is a path of success for their personal health experience and bodies, and there are others who are opposed. If the resistant result in one way or another causes a challenge, it is bringing to the surface any belief that stands in the way of evolution. Meaning, if a decision in mass is made to ensure vaccines are an option or must be taken, in other words, there is something going on within the belief system and construct of consciousness that you are working out that it is necessary to meet. It is somewhat like the discussion of polarity that we had brought forward previously, dark and light. There is always some conflicting factor in the outer world so that considerations are made and belief structures change and humans expand. And that isn't always to the comfort level or liking of the humans that receive them. But we know that you want us to explain what we see in the potentials. And remember, what we are explaining in this moment is only what we see in this moment because you are co-creating it deliberately as a collective, as a whole. We do believe that this path is inevitable, and it has already shown us that it will cause not only discomfort and harm, but for some, a feeling of safety and security. In the third dimension, that feeling of safety and security may be very physically focused, and it may certainly be based upon scientific evidence. But in a more fifth dimensional path, the choice to not become affected by the restrictive force of a vaccine may cause complete and total change in the life of that human. If the human is to succumb to something that they do not believe, there is going to be an alchemical change, a change in the physical body as well as the spiritual body that negates its progress. But if there is a willingness to stand within the faith and truth of what they believe, they may advance forward even further. Because what is then seen is that the outer world is not something stagnant. It is something that we are molding and shaping through every decision. So even in the realm of government, where you feel the most restricted and where you believe there is safety, there is only a momentary reaction from your reaction, meaning that there is a call and there is a response. We see human bodies, as we've spoken of previously through the Arcturians, as becoming far more sensitive than they have ever been before. This has been in light of recent solar energies as well as the evolution of spiritual beliefs and internal guidance. Because of this, those who already know they are not in resonance with the vaccine and choose to take it may be the ones that struggle with it the most. And we are not stating this because Again, it is something that is good or bad. It is a manifestation of where human consciousness lies. And it may be perhaps a grounding factor in how you can continue to move humanity forward through your own decision. It is a manifestation of the timeline split as well, and you will see many of these coming down the pipeline where collective decisions are made such that further restrictions and differences in vibration are shown. Eventually, this will be the cause for more options and more opportunity of humanity to choose. Although it doesn't seem that way today, this is our most significant confirmation, is regardless of what direction your government or administration takes, and regardless of what decisions are made, and whether humanity is in agreement or not in agreement, what you may find is they are moving forward a new earth potential because there are many who will not agree with them. And in that realm, a new option will have to be created. This is how some of the most incredible historic times throughout the universe have evolved, where restrictive requirements have ushered forth the most amazing new options that still remain today in many of our star systems.
Could you conclude the session, please?
Yes, we are the Pleiadians. And on behalf of all of those who are here, we want to express our gratitude again. And in the light that we see you, you are enabling the highest evolutionary process at hand. It is something that you should revere, both within yourself as well as others, regardless of how you feel about the Earth transition, for it is a significant one, or you would not have embodied. Many blessings.